Hello, colleagues and guests. Welcome to Business Analysis Excellent Conference. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, depending on the time of the day, because we're streaming all over the world today. And thank you for joining us recently or now. Maybe you stayed with us from our previous talks. So we are a global BA community and we are conducting Business Analysis Excellence Conference, and we are happy to see you, all of you among us. Our next speaker is Irina Pirvan with the talk, how do we speak to developers? So I would like to mention that our session is being recorded, and later within the week after the conference, you'll get the videos of the talks. Also, feel free to post your questions in the agenda page. So I would like to introduce our today's speakers. Hi, Irina. How are you
Hi,
doing?
Alexandra. Hi, I'm good. Thank you.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm a little bit nervous, but
Don't
yeah, I'm
worry.
also happy and looking forward to share this
Yeah.
topic.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Irina is a lead business analyst. She is an expert and assessment committee head expert in EPAM. So Irina will be speaking about how we speak to developers. And as I know, you're based in Switzerland. Have you always lived in Switzerland before?
I'm originally from Romania, Bucharest. That's also where I started my work career. Then I moved for 9 months and I worked in Brussels for ING Belgium. So that's where I learned safe and agile, and it was a very interesting experience. Then moved back to Bucharest, and then 2 years and 3 months ago, I moved to Zurich with my family, so my husband and my two small children. So it was a very long journey to get here. It was a tough period, let's say, for the past 2 years, accommodating with the two small children, the role, the new place. But yeah, in the end, it all went well, and we're in a good situation now.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's nice to get to know you better. So we're ready for the talk.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
thank you very much, Alexandra, for the nice introduction. Uh, so as I've already mentioned, I've started my career some time ago as initially as a developer. Then I went through the role of technical consultant, solution architect, business analyst, and product owner. And currently, I'm business analyst and scrum master. So I've had a various set of roles and a various set of companies. I worked for small companies, for service providing companies, and also internally for the current client, let's say, just one client, not project based, let's say. Um, so I would like to go through these perspectives, let's say, the perspectives of interacting with developers and testers and technical people. My perspectives actually. Then communicating requirements, some tips in doing this, and then being the middleman, and last but not least, showing how empathy helps in this communication. So, first of all, about perspectives. Like communication is a skill for everyone. It's not just for business analysts. It's for business analysts, project managers, team leaders, architects, developers. Anyone who's working in an IT project has to communicate. And sometimes it's challenging to talk to technical people, to developers, automation testers, technical architects, security people. So you have to find the right way, the right words to talk to these people, because they are more hands-on. They are more let's do things, like can do attitude, but not talking about it. So mm, the greatest help for me in my experience, was probably my technical background because I started as a developer and I learned the language and I learned how to do the translation. But anyway, I mean, all these people in the end, they speak English. So yeah, it should be easy. Mainly the successful project solution is to have a very good communication between business and development. So this has to be sustained by a good business analyst, a good consultant, a good translator, if you wish, that is capable to make the right connection with both sides, that is able to translate development technical stuff towards business and business words for developers who don't really care what the functionality in the end is. They just want to know what they need to do. So this skill of communicating and translating, it's something that you can train only in practice, experience by experience. Reading about it will not teach you how to act and behave in a certain situation. The skill is what you make of it and what you interpret of it. It will always go through your personal filter. I mean, it doesn't matter how many books you read about it, it's still how you bring flavor to it with your own personality. For me, for example, I'm always trying to have this like a funny type of conversation even when we're doing analysis. I want to have a light atmosphere. I want people to enjoy being there and not having it just as a work function. So that's my trait, but you don't have to do it like that. You pass it through your own filter. So having that said, I would like to move on to my perspectives. So first of all, I started as a developer. So I was on the developer side, young developer working for a small consulting company, and I was developing a system for the accounting department of a client. So what I was expecting that I would get clear description of their business needs, that there would be no open points in their description, their process whatsoever, and that they would have patience in explaining what they need and also patience in understanding my technical perspective. So I was thinking that they can tell me all the scenarios by themselves as they are working with these things every day. But surprise, I did not get that. So the client business analysts and stakeholders, they were not tech savvy. They didn't really understand the technical background, like what is happening in the background of the system. And my technical explanations weren't passing through. They didn't have the patience to understand. I was still in university. So facing direct business analysis coming from university when you don't barely know how to do these things, it was a pretty tough learning opportunity because I kept trying to make them understand the technical part, but that they didn't care. Also, I got no clear descriptions of what the users needed because they were just following their pattern and that's it. But each user had their own ways and their own directions, and in the end, they didn't have the patience to explain all this to me. They were thinking like I'm going to read their mind and I'm going to implement whatever they need by reading their mind. So in the end, I had to guess the scenarios. We had to implement something. I was working as a developer on the project and was doing the analysis and the UATs and everything. So in the end, we realized in the UAT that we had some analysis gaps and we had some features that were missed completely, and we had to do change requests and we had to redo certain parts, and we were working in a waterfall way, so everything was a little more tight, all tight connected. But in the end, it was a good experience, and it opened my eyes a little bit to how it is with the communicating with non-technical people. Further on, I moved to another role as a technical consultant. So here I was no longer a developer. I started working with developers. So I was no longer in charge of code, but I had to translate the code language to the business analysts, project managers, that I was being in charge in defining the technical specification that the developers will afterwards work on. So here I was in this first double-sided role, making sure that everyone understood. So the developers in the technical wording, and at the same time, according to the requirements, to the business requirements. So what really helped me in this first step, and I realized that it's a gain for me, that I was able to prove the developers that I'm a technical expert myself, that I know how to develop and I know how to read code and I understand what he's doing there. So this was like um, eye-opening situation, because it's like, wow, she understands me. She understands what I'm doing here. So I can talk to someone and it's not Chinese. That's how the developer felt. Like, oh, I'm not speaking Chinese. She understands me. And I also had this, wow, if I tell him that I understand him and he realizes that, then the collaboration is better, everything is better. We are on the same terms together. He takes the time to explain to me. He will not say, she doesn't get it anyway. So that was pretty eye-opening thing. And also in this role, I had two types of collaborations with developers. On one hand was this platform customization developers. So we were working on projects platform based, like we were working on Documentum. So we needed to do customizations on Documentum, which is some Java code that you just attach over it, but you are at the same time limited by the platform. So these guys, they were happy to do it because it was project based. We knew the client needs this, this, and this. So they have to implement it, they have to do it. Everything was nice and fun. On the other hand, we had also projects with products developed in-house. And the company model was that a lead developer was also the product owner or manager of the product. So we had projects based on these products where I had to convince these guys that they need to change something in their product for my client. So I had this blocker, like they were saying, no, I don't want to change my product based on this. So I had to explain, bring arguments, and explain like what is the benefit of adding this feature, run a negotiation, because the product was his baby. So I was coming there and making changes to his baby. So he had to understand like the benefit of the feature for the product as a whole, not just for my clients. And we had to find the middle ground and all this back and forth and just have a good solution design to convince him. So that was pretty challenging. Moving on from this, I had a solution architect role. So here I was also developing and doing some solution architecture on a custom solution for a client. And this role was like changing into a leader of the team. So the team would look up to me, would try to look for my agreement on my solution design. But here, I mean, I realized that I have to look for solutions together with the team, so not just by myself. I realized what means merging code. So, working with clean code, sharing the same code base, because this is like an aspect that's usually hidden from the business analyst and the product owner. They don't see this kind of stuff. They don't know what is happening there. Yeah, you're delivering a feature. But if you go behind the scenes, you understand. If you write clean, understandable code, collaboration between developers will be better. If I write things in my way and another developers in his way, and then we switch, then we will not understand what we're doing. So guidelines in code writing are relevant, and ignoring technical depth and having poor technical decisions can have a larger impact on the project. I mean, instead of finishing something in an hour, you finish it in two, but we are talking about 1 hour. If you multiply that, you will get hundreds of hours lost just by not being on the same page and not understanding the benefit of clean code. And I also learned that you have to reject business requirements when they're bad, because also good code means high performance. So we had a requirement from a business stakeholder that wanted a lending application in just one page, where we were bringing data from the background in more widgets, and it was running a lot of services that were bringing documents as well. So the performance would have been very, very low. The users would have been super unhappy because they have to wait for the page to load. So, where's the benefit in having everything in one page if you have to wait for it a lot? So, here we just had to tell them no, push them back. And this came from a collaborative development discussion. Yeah. So, mm, this are like the technical aspects that PAs and POs they tend to overlook in business as well. So this is relevant. This is also relevant. Um, so what I learned. So I had some changes to my mindset. I learned to both speak and listen. So if you're in a leading role, you have to listen to the team around you. You have to speak your mind, but also listen to the others. The more opinions there are, the more chances of not missing something out. So even if you have an edge case, a scenario that is very not likely to happen or completely not likely to happen, it's better to say it out loud, to speak it, to have it written, to see it, to visualize it. And then maybe you can find some little detail that is near it that will also help you. Finding out things um, that you could miss, I think it's the best thing that can do for your project. Then uh, I like to call this like learn to use the collective brain of the team, which is have everybody speak up. Listen to everybody, even if they're a junior, maybe they see something that you don't. So I think the biggest fail is not using the collective brain of the team. Now, moving on to my next role, I went on and became a business analyst and product owner, and I had a different view and a different perspective. So now my priorities were managing the backlog, making sure that the focus is on the high priority items, and making sure that we close things. So here, what I learned is that requirement quality reflects in development quality. So you have to make sure that the requirements are clear from the beginning, that all aspects are covered, because then the development quality will also be good. Next, the strong team bond is very, very relevant. So you like I've often seen this mindset in teams. They see that the product owner is their manager, is their team manager or their leader that tells them what to do, and this is wrong and it's against how it should be. And agile principles say that it shouldn't be like that, but people have this reflex of just I have to follow directions from someone. So you have to show them that you're a leader and you're not a manager. You prioritize. You make sure you prepare what needs to be done next, but they decide. You have to make space for technical depth. You have to ask for their opinions on how things should be done further. And what I like to focus on is also closing things. This is also very relevant. Closing things is giving a sense of accomplishment to the developers. So they have the feeling that they delivered something, they finished something. Like imagine having 10 features, all of them 80% done. So you have leftovers from every feature. then your feeling of accomplishment is not there. You cannot strike them down. They're still open. There's still something pending. So I like to close what we start. Close what we start makes also a good feeling in the team members. So it's not just about following the principles or whatever. It's the feeling of accomplishment. Further on, I moved on from this role and I went to become a business analyst and a scrum master. And I added here also or parent because coincidentally, this phase in my life came at the same period with my kids being at communication stage, so no longer baby mode. So I could not help not see the similarities because we're talking about respect towards people in the end. So developers, team members, children, they're all people. So respect towards people. So I made like this parallel, let's say, focus on quality and equality. So equality is super, super important. Since I have two kids, I always have to buy donuts multiple of two. Yeah, because um, you can't buy just one. You will fight. You have to not make any differences. Yeah, not make differences because like one is smaller, one is older. No, they have to be treated the same. So junior developer, senior developer, they have to be treated the same. You cannot disregard what the more junior says. Then the, also they have to work all they have to have the chances to work on similar things. So if you notice that only one guy is picking up the interesting stuff and the others are not, try to balance this, because then you will get an imbalance in the team. Like someone will feel like he's always doing the trash work, and that's not nice. Yeah, there's always trash work in projects. Yeah, good. Then further on, you need to nurture the team growth and development. So you have to allow for them to practice, to learn, to repeat, to adjust efforts. So this is more like from a Scrum Master perspective. We had to work on our sizing, on how we do things. So this is also something that in time you get better on. I mean, I've seen this as well with my kids. In the beginning, they don't know how to do something, but then the more they do it, the more they practice it, the better they get. I thought that's not that can't be. But then it's amazing because in kids you like see it immediately. In grown-ups, it's a little slower, but yeah, it's also like mind opening. Then facilitate and protect. Yeah, so you have to protect from external environment. Yeah, you have to facilitate the refinement meeting, support that you have fruitful technical discussions and you don't have arguments. Yeah, you don't want to fight over the same toy. So yeah, you have to have this collaborative environment. Then you have to support their voice and their togetherness. So everyone has a voice, and togetherness, collaboration is better. So it's bringing more results than everyone working on their end. So an agile team is like a family. Everyone is working together, everyone is heard, everyone is collaborating, everyone benefits of the results of a happy, nice environment where you can develop yourself as a person, you can learn things, and you're happy and you come to work with joy. In the end, we should all strive towards that. Yeah. So, after all these perspectives, let's say, I try to summarize like some different flavors of developers or technical people. So, what do you mean they can be different? Of course, they can be different. Everyone has their own style and their own social interaction style. So, based on that, I have some figured out some tips that might help you. And so, the first balance comparison is the shy and hesitant developer and the one that is talking too much and is impulsive. So for the shy and hesitant, also had a question in the community page. What do you do with shy developers that don't speak much? They don't like that. They're hesitant. So for them, what you need to do is to make them heard, to show them that their opinion is valued, that it matters. So I'll give you an example. I had a colleague who was delivering all the stories on time. He was fixing bugs. He was taking part in production releases and incident investigations. But always, when I asked support for technical analysis on the upcoming stories, he would modestly say that I should go to the dev lead because the dev lead knows best and they have the vision in mind. I took this up with the dev lead and I explained to him that this is not beneficial. And he agreed because he also didn't want to spend all the time on technical analysis. That should be a split task. So we decided together to give this guy more empowerment, to make his voice heard. And all of a sudden, something changed. He became more active, more involved. He felt more valued. And I am sure the inner fulfillment that he's part of a team and not just executing had made a difference in his overall self image. Now, this guy will work happily, will enjoy logging in, will feel good, and will open up and speak up because he knows that what he says is heard and listened to and is relevant. Next, we have the guy that is talking too much, having too many ideas. So, for these guys, you have to slow them down. You have to make them take a step back and understand better what needs to happen. So, they shouldn't be uh, going all over with so many analysis scenarios and so many discussions and debates over a topic. So analysis helps figuring out things, but taking it slow and not going around the subject, going towards the subject. That is what matters. Next, I've got other two types. The procrastinating developer that delays doing something, that he does only what he likes and what he doesn't like, he forgets or just puts it for tomorrow. So for these guys, as a scrum master, I mean, not necessarily as a BA, but sometimes it might be the case that you need something from them. uh, you need to follow up with them. You need to track what they're doing, check with them the timeline, remind them the goal, remind them the due date for that, asking how much time is it left, and also show understanding. Explain to them, I know this is hard. I know this is an unpleasant thing to do. I know you would prefer to do more interesting tasks, but someone's got to do it. So we have to get over it. And the sooner we get over it, then the better, because we have this result and this result. Yeah. So that's one thing. And for the guys that are overdoing, these guys as well, you have to slow them down. So I have a colleague of mine who we decided in grooming we will split this story because it's too large. We split it in three stories. Each of them has its own sizing, all nice and well. We start the sprint, and this colleague of mine, he starts the first story and actually does the other two inside the first one because he thought it's better that way. So I'm not gonna say it's a bad thing. It happens. I mean, yeah, it's fine. He did it. He did it well in the end. But we had a reason for splitting it, so that it's just, let's stick to the process. It's better if you deliver small chunks, then they're tested and you find bugs faster and everything. So yeah, that's one thing. Next, they're the guys who always say yes and the guys who always say no. The guys who always say yes, will rush to do everything, and then the second day you realize that what they just implemented is not needed anymore. So these guys, you have to keep in touch with them and discuss with them and make sure that everything is clear before they start. And the guys that always say no, these guys, they need to be presented like, what are the reasons why we are asking you to do this? Because um, they need to know the goal that needs to be achieved. So maybe it's not their job to do that, when that thing that, for which they say no, but it's good and it's important to for their help. Their help is needed. Their help is required. Yeah. So here again, don't avoid the guys that always say no and go to the guys that always say yes, because then you will end up with a situation where only one person is doing the analysis and the others are working unbothered. So you want to always keep it balanced. Now, moving on to communicating requirements. I try to collect some tips on that, what I found like being super relevant. So, first things first, you should know what you should know. So, imagine this: you're refining a stories, you're preparing a business requirement, and one team member asks you something you haven't thought about. What will you do? This means time was wasted, discussions back and forth, many meetings, and also the lack of reliability on your story and requirement and future stories as well, maybe. So you have to have thorough business understanding. You have to have all the answers, identify all the scenarios, and have good technical understanding over the subject. Try to describe in the same functionality in business words and in technical words, and confirm the understanding. Confirm the same understanding with the developers when you present your requirement. The acceptance criteria has to cover all test cases. It has to be discussed and agreed. And if possible, if needed, discuss with the developer to identify other technical implications in advance. Next, communication preparation. So here, before you present a new feature, it is always nice to put a frame around it. So prepare a concise and clear descriptions. I have seen long descriptions which I don't have patience to read. Why would you expect someone else has? So concise description: who, what, where, why, when. That's it. Then try to eliminate any misunderstandings. Try to not leave gaps or open points. And also visual. So preparing visual designs, like if you have a UI, have some mock-ups. I use Snagit for that. So I just create there something, then I put some numbers on it, and then I explain what those things are. So mapping, in user interface mapping is always super helpful. Design prototype and a diagram. Workflow diagrams are wonderful if you have to explain a process. If you have various use cases, use more diagrams. So this is like worth 1,000 words. Words cannot describe something as well as a design prototype. And of course, acceptance criteria. I mean, this is something which I've discovered to be helpful. Using Gherkin language helps. It's not just a framework. It helps you identify alternative scenarios. It does. It really does. Next, you have the technical analysis situations. So for that, you have to offer support, because you can't do it. Yeah, in the end, you're not a technical person anymore or whatever. You cannot provide the answer for their technical implementation. So you have to support. You have to prepare a template, a framework for them to work on. They have to know, like, in detail, and that the wording is understood across the team. If your requirement is opening a new window, explain what the new window is. A new tab, a new pop-up, what is it? So yeah, that's relevant, like being on point. So for this, I have this nice use case which I've been through. So I had these links with callback parameters. Yeah, some technical stuff. which I had to do. That's me trying to push it to refined items. And it was pretty hard because, yeah, it was technical. So I asked for a developer. I said, hey, can you come and help me to push these things into refined items? He's like, no, no, it's not my job. It's technical analysis, but it's analysis. You have to do it. Yeah, but I don't know how. I cannot do it. It's too technical for me. So what I did, I came up with this very nice table, categories, the set of links. I said, okay, these are the links, these are the categories. Can you help me fill in that thing? And he did in the end. He agreed and he said, oh, yes, this helps. I can do that. Yeah, I can fill in the blanks. It's easier for me that way. And then we managed to refine this item. So yeah, that can happen, helping them doing the technical analysis. Next, more on being the middleman. So this, again, it's not just a BA perspective, it's a general person perspective. So first of all, listening is very relevant. Listening is part of communication. You have to listen carefully what the developer are saying. You do not interrupt them. You can ask them to rephrase in a more understandable way to make sure that you understood. Also try to rephrase yourself in a technical businessy way. And even you can ask them to define a schema or a design proposal for clarity. So they can come with a proposal and then you see if you're on the same page or not. This way, the technical part will become more clear. Next, mediate. So all the time, as a BA and as a Scrum Master, product owner, you need to do brainstorming sessions. You need to mediate the conversation by asking questions sometimes. So instead of you answering, you ask. So ask them anything that comes to your mind. And also, disagreements can happen, especially if you have two or more senior developers at the same table. So then what you have to do is remind them of the purpose, the outcome, the goal. We're trying to create a button. Hey, let's stay on the same page for the button, please. So always focus on the goal. And at the end, confirm the same understanding. Write down the main points, write down the conclusion, steer the conversation to the goal and towards the alignment. And at the end, go over it again and confirm, make sure that nothing was missed. Next, building a trust relationship. So this is again super, super important. The trust relationship will give you the best open and transparent collaboration with your team. So your requirements and proposals will be less challenged. Also, if you ask advice when writing requirements, that is not a problem. It's appreciated. It's actually showing that you are listening to them and they just don't have to follow you and implement blindly. Ask for intermediary reviews before the actual refinement session. So if you're preparing something technical, like a story that has some technical part, technical implication, do this technical analysis beforehand. In this way, you will become more knowledgeable and you will save the time of the entire team in the end. Then you have to adapt the communication to the maturity level of the team. So as long as you become um, more accustomed with the process and with how things going, it will be easier. But in the beginning, you have to explain more, you have to prove yourself more, you have to make sure that the team has found a nice collaborating balance. Also, the team should know your weak points because that builds trust. So if they know that sometimes I am forgetting this kind of open item in story definition, then they will remind me. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I don't think that's like, oh, I found a mistake. No, that's we found something that we can fix in time, and that's great. That's super good. So that is like really, really helping this kind of balance and communication and being on the same page. Also, about that, we have defined a story template together in the team. So we have this clear list of things that every story should or could contain, like description, acceptance criteria, open items, dependencies, technical analysis, UI design. So I have the template, and for every story, I try to make sure to cover all these things, and this helps. And it was established together with the team, what everyone felt that was nice and relevant for everyone. And lastly, I want to talk about empathy because this was like the base for all my general collaborations. So empathy brings ease of communication and ease of life. It's the perfect medicine to get through complicated situations. If you understand the other person's point of view, you can relate to his view, and you can respect his view. So you don't disregard his view, you don't disconsider his view, you understand him, you can put yourself in his shoes. And also, if they see that you do that, you have the openness to do that, they will relate in a different way because they will feel understood, and they will feel part of the team, and everyone can then see and use this collective brain of the team and have this in a more beneficial way. So yeah, that's about it. Um, I added a fun slide in many languages because I think it's funny because it's the same language even if we speak in different languages. Talking to developers is the same. So, cum vorbim cu dezvoltatorii? We will just speak in Romanian if we need to. Uh, podemos hablar en español. If they're Spanish, of course, they will feel better. And all the other languages. So if you're still wondering how, and if you still have questions, you can add to the Q&A. I don't know if we already have questions. And I really, really hope that my ideas will stick with you for a long time. Like stay in the back of your head and help you throughout your day and throughout your projects and work.
Yes, Irina, we've got a lot of questions, and I would like to thank you for this brilliant, really brilliant and informative presentation. After your presentation, I personally heard how great communicator and presenter you can be. So I wish every team has such a business analyst or product owner like you to communicate and to explain the requirements and to manage all the troubles within the team. Yeah, I see that you have already covered many questions from what we got in the chat, but we still keep getting some questions, some specific questions. So I will
Okay.
start from the most voted questions, and we hope that we will try to answer all of them. If not, then we'll answer with Irina all these questions after the presentation, and we'll of course we'll send the recordings of the presentation in a week. So the most voted question is, what visualization tool is typically used to present requirements to developers, to verify requirements with developers, or QA testers? So what visualization tool do you use?
So mainly, as I already mentioned, I try to follow the story structure. And inside the story structure, like description, acceptance criteria, everything, we always have the design. The design is basically a mock-up of our application with the changes already there, done in Snagit or Paint or whatever tool you prefer. Then I put numbers and I highlight whatever needs changing, and then comes the description side by side with it. So usually I do this if I have a very large requirement, I do it on a Confluence page dedicated for this. So I put numbers and the table with explanations and descriptions and links to design hints or something. And on the other hand, I like to use the workflow tool. So there's this diagram tool, Glyphy, inside Confluence, where you can design workflows that explain the scenarios, the various scenarios, and the use cases. So a workflow diagram, but you have to adapt to what kind of product you're developing. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And there is another related question to how to explain the product to the developers. So, do you start by sharing your view about the website or product to be developed based on stakeholders' interview, or you share the summary of the idea with them, with the development team, and you let them come with a solution and tech stack around it?
So in this case, the tech stack, that's something that can come from other areas, like from management or from other directions. I haven't been in part of a project where we get to choose the tech stack. It was always coming imposed from somewhere else. But in terms of presenting, so I would always start with presenting the business needs, what we are trying to achieve, what we are aiming for, so they understand why we are doing this. Why are we here? I mean, they shouldn't just blindly implement some requirements. And in terms of the solution design, that's also depending on your maturity and on the developer's maturity. If you are a more mature consultant, and they are like a junior team, then you have to come with a proposal. You cannot expect for them to do that. If they are a senior team, you can do it together in a collaborative way. So it always comes down to who has the most technical expertise, the most technical knowledge, and then you do it together, starting from the client needs, the business needs. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
my view.
Um, Thank you so much. And we got a couple of questions regarding your transition from a role to role. So you've been asked if you found it difficult to change the roles. What inspired you to do the transition? And also, uh, how was your journey from a business analyst to product owner? Please share your ways or tips for the switch. Anything to focus or upskill?
Yeah, so changing roles came a little bit naturally, I can say. I mean, I was really passionate about solution design and defining solution and clarifying and proposing the what is like the best way to implement something that fits the needs of the business. So in a way, I kind of changed roles of focused on that, like becoming closer to understanding the business need and proposing the solution for the business need. And the in terms of becoming a product owner, I think that's just let's say the modern way of viewing a solution architect, because a solution architect is more or less like that, but in defining how things should work, how things should be implemented. And the product owner always has to have this vision in mind. So that's what like differentiates him from the business analyst. So currently in my current role, I have a little bit trouble with that because I'm no longer a product owner. So I have this kind of struggle, like power struggle with the product owner, because I have some vision, I have some goals in focus, and he has different ones. So we have to balance that out. But mainly that, I think, is what matters the most. I mean, if you are just a business analyst that does the analysis, writes down the specification, and tries to make sure that everything is covered, but you just stay there in just doing that, then you're not going to transition further. So transitioning to a product owner role, I think you should have drive, you should have your own ideas, your own proposals, your vision. You have to have this understanding to try to get out of just writing specification.
Could you give an example why you have just said that the business analyst and product owner are staying on different sides, like have different goals? So now you're not on the side of product owner. There is another person on the project, as I understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so currently the product owner is doing the prioritization in his way, in the way that he sees things fit, and I might not have the same view. That is mainly my concern now. But we solve that again with communication. So we have our alignment sessions before the refinement, before the planning, and we discuss together. We prioritize based on the business needs, based on release calendar and other stuff. So we try to get these things cleared. Like if I see something that is relevant from the developers to be done with a higher priority, I will tell him and I will speak up and I will not just follow his priorities. Yeah.
So good communication is a must to resolve any issues between the
Yes.
stakeholders and team members. Yeah.
Yes. Good
Okay.
communication and a good team spirit overall. That helps. I mean, if you feel that you can speak freely in the team, then it's all easier for everyone.
Yeah. Can you change your team spirit? Could you influence them
Well,
to be
I
more
try to do
positive
that.
and communicative?
I try to do that. I mean, I try to keep our meetings always in a fun way, like you don't hate yourself for being there. So try to make things in a light way, like break the people that are upset and change their mood, and to try uh, to be a collaborative, friendly environment. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're jumping to another question, and you've been asked how to work with developers who are not talkative, who are not talkative. Yeah,
You
you
have
know,
to
it's
you have to
kind of
make them.
people.
You have to make them. So you have to first talk more for them, and you have to discuss and try to understand them, have one-to-ones with them and try to get their perspective better, and try to become friends in a way, like work friends, because you're on the same team. So even, I mean, I worked with teams that are all over the world. I worked for a company for 3 years. I have never met my developer team, so I've never seen them physically, face to face. All only remote, only in calls. We didn't even do so many video calls, but we were feeling like friends because we had this good communication and good collaboration. And the example with the shy developer is one of these guys. So we really managed to do really great things and be a great team even if we were distributed.
Yeah, thanks. It's very important. And Katerina Ryzankova is asking you, could you please kindly share the strangest experience with dev teams and maybe curious or funny experience?
So I have one, but it's not mine. As I was
Okay.
preparing, because I was preparing for this presentation, I was talking to my fellow BA colleagues, and one of them, she told me a story about a developer who went into a meeting with a business. They had no BA, they had no middleman, so just developer and business. And the developer got so angry at the business that he took off his shoe and he threw it. So things can get physical if you don't level conversations, if you don't make things like in a peaceful way. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's the craziest one. But yeah, from my personal experience, I don't think I have some that is like so out of the ordinary. It's like just regular day-to-day work.
Yeah, exactly. And Patrick Stephens is asking, what are your thoughts on being the middleman versus exposing the development team directly to customer, staff,
Hmm.
stakeholders?
It,
Yeah,
it's exactly that. So, I mean, it depends on the guys. So here, there's another parallel which I didn't cover. So there are some developers who have the business talk in them, so they can talk to business. So these guys, you can just throw them out there. You can let them discuss by themselves and then align with them later. But there are these guys who cannot do it by themselves, so you have to do it together with them. So it all depends on the personality of them. Also, it's always critical to align and be on the same page. So if you send them alone to these discussions, you have to align and get their knowledge and get what they did after the session, so you don't get outside of the subject, so you don't remain in the dark. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you for your opinion. And maybe the last question, we'll have 1 minute to answer. How much a business analyst should worry about explaining things technically to engineering team? Where is the threshold not to enter into tech lead or architect area? But for you, because you have been transferred from the developer side, so maybe you understand better the technical side. But for BAs asking who don't have this technical experience, should we worry
Mm.
about how to explain it technically to the development team?
So
Yeah,
yeah, there is a thin line. So in the beginning, when you're just getting familiar with the topic, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't assume that you know the solution, and you shouldn't propose technical solution, because that will not be taken in a good positive way. It will be like you're going over them and you have no experience about it. You first have to gain that experience, like work in the project, ask for advice, ask as much as you want, and then you will learn the features. You will learn what the tool can do, the technology can do, and further on, later on, you will be able to do it yourself. But first, there's this learning phase that you have to go through.
yeah. Thank you so much. We're getting out of time, and I would say big thank you, Irina, for this wonderful
Yeah.
presentation, and for all our attendees of the conference. Please stay with us because we'll be having the full day of talks today. So the next speaker is Alena Tishko with the talk BA against developers, one mutual goal. So one similar topic, and it would be nice to have you all on the talk. Thank you, Irina, so much, and we'll be sending the recordings soon. Please have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Enjoy your
very much,
time.
Alexandra.
Thank you. Bye
Thanks,
bye.
everyone. Bye.